Hello, this is my long detailed Halloween pumpkin video on how I made it and the issues I ran into. I'm going to start with the Arduino. This is standard Arduino. It's just got a plastic cover that I bought from China on it, and I just prefer working with it. So the thing I'll need, and then the first thing I'm going to work on is getting the screen connected. This is the OLED screen, and this is just for debugging purposes, so I can know what's going on. I will connect the power to this later on, but for now I'm just connecting this. So those are the pins set up for the OLED screen. For the power, I'm going to be using my test board from Pymo version 2. I've already got one of the OLED screens on it, but I'll be putting a second one on it, which will be this one, and I'll be using those for the eyes. But for now, I'm just concentrating on just getting power from this. Okay, these breadboards have two separate sections here, so this just connects both of them together, so it's in a way useful. Okay, that power is just for the orange pi, so that doesn't matter. This is the cable for programming the Arduino. Plug it in. Plug in. Okay. Heads up. Then I need power for the Arduino, and I have a handy power cable which I made myself ages ago. This plugs in the back, and then should we do it the way around? Okay, black goes there and red goes there. And then this is a 12 volt power supply, and I plug it in and switch it on. And that now should clear the screen and say test text. Okay, so that's working. I can switch off. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a ultrasonic sensor, this one. I have got a different one, so I'm going to be just testing a few of them just to see which one works better, and plug this in and get it to connect. Okay, loading done. That back in. Okay, so test it. So I'm putting my hand over it. Next, I'm going to attach a servo to this. This will be for the mouth opening and closing of the pumpkin. done uploading. Okay, so now I can take this out and put this in. Let me get another servo. This is acting weird. I think I've got these old servos that I bought from China and I don't think they work properly. So I was having a problem with the software, and I've fixed that now, and now it's working fine. So I'm going to be using this servo. I am updating every 100 milliseconds or 50 milliseconds, one of the two, and that's why I'm up going dit 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 sort of thing. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is the RGB LEDs, these ones over here. I'm going to use 3 of them because I don't think one is bright enough, and they're going to be lighting the pumpkin's mouth. And it's just going to be the mouth and probably the nose, since the screens are going to be in the eyes, of course. So this is not plugged into the Arduino, it's just a simple test to see if it works. So in theory, if I've got this wired up, the red, nothing should happen now. And then when I plug this in, red should go on. And it's quite bright. Okay, that's red, that's nice and bright. That's green, that's nice and bright. And that's blue, nice and bright. Okay, fine. So these are transistors. I only need 3 of them. It is basically an electronic switch. You control it using a signal, and when I turn the signal on with these ones, then it allows the current to flow. Basic idea. So that looks like a bit of a mess, but in theory it should be working. So what I've done is I've written some code that will just switch in between the red, green and blue LEDs, and it'll go half brightness and then full brightness. Okay, so it's uploading. Okay, uploading done. Did you notice? Okay, red brighter, green, blue, blue. So what it's should be doing is it should be going dim red, bright red, dim green, bright green, dim blue, bright blue. So I've potentially found out what the bug is. The two pins I'm using for red and green don't work when I'm using the Servo library. Now I've moved things around, so I'm just going to upload the code. Okay, uploading done. So what this should do now is have 3 shades of red, 4 shades of red, 4 shades of green, 4 shades of blue. Okay, red, 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 and red. Fine. So that's green, 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 and green, and blue, 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 and blue. So that's working. So it's got nothing to do with my wiring or my code. Okay, now I'm going to go, so that's the ultrasonic sensor working, the LEDs working, screen's working. So that's a servo. I need to update the servo. So instead of using a pot, what I'm going to do is manually put the values in. So I've changed that to 9. This in theory shouldn't work. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, perfect. So that's distance with the RFID, LEDs, servo for the mouth. Okay, next thing, I need this to talk to that. The first thing I'll need is one of these. Basically converts the signal from 5 volts to 3.3 volts. So that's the low voltage, so that plugs in that side. That's the high voltage, this plugs in that side. Okay, after a while I got the I2C working, and I'm just going to show a few things. So I'm clicking on the screen now and I'm going to send a angle. A different, so 26, 153, and then red color to 181, and then green, and then blue, all random values. Okay, I'll max them out. And probably the pumpkin color will be roughly that, like an orangey color. So I made these 2 squares, the exact size of the screen display area, and as you can see, they do fit there, but they fit way better on this pumpkin. I bought 2 pumpkins, 2 different sizes. I could maybe even do a larger pumpkin than this. I wasn't sure of the size, but I definitely am going to go with this one. So long, and the mouth will obviously be there. So if I get a block of wood, and you can see what I mean. That's not a bad side. Yeah. So this side, those are the different sides. I've also got that possibly. I don't want to do the smaller ones. Something like that. How does that look? So if I move this one away. Maybe that as a front. Or yeah, I prefer that. What is it? That. So the idea is I'm going to cut a line here, and this will move up somehow. I might probably cut the bottom off, I'm not too sure. I'll have to work that out exactly how I'm going to do it, but that's how the mouse is going to move. So it's going to move up and down. So I'm not going to start by cutting it, I'm going to plan it out first, do as much of the planning as possible, and then once I've got everything planned out, then I'm going to cut it. Okay, so I need a board that holds everything and fits in the back. This is relatively thin, just a scrap piece of board I've got, and I'll just need to cut it a bit. Okay, so this is the servo. So the mouth will be here. This will connect to a connection here, which will then go into the one side of the mouth, and there'll be another one here which will just run on a dial or a bearing or whatever the case it is. It doesn't have to be anything special, and that will connect in there and it will join over here. So the mouth will then go there. There needs to be some sort of counterbalance so the servo doesn't have issues picking the thing up, and so it's balanced on both sides. So with the faces pointed to the side, probably come about there. I would want this to be in the center roughly. So what I'll do is I'll leave a little bit of extra space here, just in case I need to cut it off. So that can be the center. Okay, so the idea is this goes there, that goes there, and this can go in the back there with the dowel, and then I'll have connecting pieces there just to strengthen it. So if I use a dowel here, probably be easier to make, and then I can reuse these somewhere else. And then just simply drill a hole through there, add this in, and glue it in, and then that should be fine. Okay, then that's nicely fits in there. Servo would go there somewhere, and then I'd use that dowel connecting to the holder here, and that would turn like that. Okay, so the servo, how I'm going to attach it, I'm going to take this off. So that screw fits in there into the servo, and that's why I can use that hole to re-screw it on. Okay, so it's not fitting perfectly, but what the idea is, I'm going to use these screws, one in either side, and screw it in there. So I need to just grind this down slightly. So then this dowel needs to go into something over here. So there needs to be like a piece here with a hole in it. And then so I need a little holder for that. Okay, so one problem I might have is when I'm joining that to there. I was thinking of putting screws in from this side in there, but of course there's holes in the way, so that's not going to work too well. And gluing something purely with glue is not that good. And this is the plank I found on the side, which seems to fit just perfectly there. So that side's fine. So this side I might make like some other sort of joint onto it. So where I'm going to put this is I'm going to put this at the bottom. So I'm not too sure how much forward, but basically what it will do is it will be underneath, and it will move like this. So there will be a section that needs to be cut out here for it to move up and down there. Another idea that I have is to use RGB LEDs. Okay, I'm going to cut these pieces off. This is at the back. So what I'm thinking of doing is gluing those two in, but leaving this out. So I can do something like that. This is the plank that goes inside and holds all the boards, but there's going to be a plank which sits on top, and I want the ultrasonic sensor to be right in the front and the wires to run under the bottom. So I found that board, exactly as wide as the pumpkin, but it's not too bad. Okay, for the mouth to open, the pumpkin needs to be sitting up like that. This little spot here could potentially put the speakers there, so then it would sit something like that. So basically I cut a groove out here for this thing, and it sits in there. These cables are slightly long. I'm going to probably have to bend these cables back. Yeah, so those cables I'll probably have to bend so they come out directly. It's just high enough. Yes, it's quite thick, but I'll cut it off there. It doesn't need to be too long. Since it's so thick, it can be actually quite thin. So what I could probably do is cut here and cut it at an angle, something like that. Not perfect, but then what I'll do is I'll cut this one to the same length. But just example there. So if the pumpkin's overlapping, then I might as well just keep this in line. Then there should be enough space for the mouth to come down. There's the pumpkin on top of it. So next thing, I want to go back to this idea, and I want to potentially bend these pins straight. I've got more than one of these sensors, so if this breaks, it's not too much of an issue. It's not perfectly on here. Can always solder this. I'm thinking to point it slightly at an upward angle. It really depends where I'm going to put this thing. If I put it on a table, which is probably a better idea, then I want to point it just straight. I'm going to unscrew this. So I'm going to make a spot here, and then underneath I want to make a spot for the cable. I wasn't recording that, but basically I cut, using this tool I cut out a hole. Here's the end result of the router, and that groove is for the wire, so that can then accommodate that perfectly. A while back I bought all these cables. Now they're for servos, extension cables for servos. This is when I was making my first robot Hoppy, which I'll be talking about sometime soon. So like that, and that saves me from making a cable. Yeah, that screw hole's even worse. Okay, so I'm not too sure how I'm going to connect this on. Just stay there by itself. I do have a 3D printer, so what I can do is I can 3D. So same idea as this, where it's got little holes in, where these 4 holes then fit into there. I do a more precise version of this, and this screws in from the back into the top 2 holes. Okay, and that's hopefully gonna be the ultrasonic sensor holder. Gonna carry on with the ultrasonic sensor later on. Now I want to do the orange bar. So the plan now is to slowly dismantle the other board and the test board, and then put everything in here. And I got everything connected. So next is I need that to be connected to a little power rail thing here. And I still need to tidy these cables up, but I'm going to do that last. So here's the ultrasonic sensor again. Okay, so I'm going to do this cable first. That's the finished product. So let's see. Okay, just taking this off. Okay, I'll clean that up later. Okay, so there's the first problem. Is I did leave a bit of a gap there, but that's not fitting. So what I can probably do is just sand it down. So something like that. Then, okay, this is not supposed to be coming out so far either. There we go, another problem. So I've just got to cut the front of this off. And then 2 screws in there. So I want something to keep these cables in here. So I got an idea. So I got this piece of plastic out of the recycle bin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut strips of it, which are the same size as this, and then I'm just going to put a screw halfway in between the strip, in between these wires. There's enough space to fit a small screw. And it's just going to be a long strip, holds there down, and another long strip, holds there down. So that's the idea. Now let's see if it works. I went over everything and just made sure I had the right things connected to the right cables, and then I've connected them up. What I'd like to do now is I'd like for there to be a holder over there. Okay, that's out of the way, and haven't tested it, but it should be working. So on that topic, what I want to do now is make the power supply. I'm thinking of just making a teeny little board, which I make nicely, which I can then reuse in different projects, which has a 12 volt input. I can then access the 12 volt through a rail, and then it's got two converters, 3.3 and 5, and then I can access those through a rail. Drill a hole, put that in, then I soldered 2 wires on it, made sure they're the correct way, and those are coming from the power supply. So this is then going to attach to the board, and then the other two will attach to a connector which I can access. Okay, so there's the cut little plank that I made, and that goes over there, that goes there, and then I'll cut it shorter if I need it. So that is a very, very simple power supply. Stick 12 volts in there, get 12 volts there, 5 volts there, and 3.3 volts there. And I'll just label them with a pen. The next thing I want to do is make a holder where this sits on, and it stays up about over there. So what I want is that I can push the back of the pumpkin, so there'll be a hole at the back of the pumpkin, and then I can push it in and then attach the mouth. The mouth is going to, well, the bottom mouth is going to be separate from the pumpkin. And I think we just ran into another problem. Okay, so I'm going to have to cut. Let me just work this out first. Yeah, so this section here, I'm just going to have to cut a little groove. So I won't cut that, I'll just rasp it out. And then on that side too. I've tested the power supply and it works, and I'll just put the voltages at the back here, 12.4 volts and 5.2 volts and 3.3 volts, so that's fine. And here's my old LED setup. This doesn't fit in here, but it does fit above, so that's fine. Now, if I put this here, it will fit there, but I don't know if those LEDs. So the pumpkin's gonna slide slide in this direction. So there's going to be a cutout at the bottom. It will slide in, and the mouth will be completely separate, and then I'll connect the mouth. So there will be space around here to let the light through, but I don't know how much. I'll have to test it. But I do have a backup. I've got the strip LED lights. So what am I missing? I also need a extension for that, but as you've seen before, I've got loads, and the STM32, the screens. I need to fit the screens here as well, and I need to connect something holding up the screens, and yeah, that's a different story in itself. What I'll do is I'll cut out the pumpkin first. So I'll get all this working. There's a lot of testing I need to do here. I'll ignore the screens for now. I'll get all this connected and tested. Then if everything tests fine, then what I'll do is I'll obviously screw the rest of the stuff in, make a platform, put that there, put the power up here, all of that. And then I'm going to carve the pumpkin so it fits in here, and cut the mouth out, and maybe cut this, and then carve the eyes and the nose, and then I'll put all the screen stuff. So the screens will go in right at the end. What I'm going to do now is test this board. In theory, this should now switch on. Okay, nothing exploding. Okay, let's log in. Okay, that's a good sign. I can connect to the Orange Pi. Read distance. Okay, something's not working there. Send angle. Send sensor. Send that. Send sensor. Error, failed to write to I2C bus. Okay, so it's not seen the Arduino. Okay, should be enough time. Cut that off. Okay, I'm going to check the cables for the I2C. I replaced these cables and those cables, and I think these cables were the issue, was these two, and then it started working again. And this was after taking out everything and playing around and playing around and playing around. So now what I've done is I've attached all the stuff again, sensors again, and the comms should still be working. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the red, and I don't see any red LED. Same color. 255. Okay, let's try change something else. Maybe that's another. Okay, the green works, and the blue works. Okay, so that points to some pin being disconnected on there. Okay, so the I2C is working, and the blue, okay, the red's not working. Okay, the servo is moving when I do that. So it's sending the message, it's getting data back, but it's just getting a distance back of 0. So something's wrong with the sensor. This might be because of this holder I've got. What I'll do is I'll detach the holder. That's probably why that's not working. Wait, I've got the pins set wrong here. Everything needs to move up by 1. Wow, now suddenly red's working. It helps when you stick it in the right pin. Okay, does the does the measure distance? Wow, the measure distance working. I often have this problem when I'm debugging is I'll go, there's say 10 things that are potentially wrong. And you go down the first path and there's nothing wrong with it, but you don't know there's nothing wrong with it. And you go down and you change stuff and you actually break something which was correct. And then this complicates everything completely. So if I took this off and went down further down this path, I might have broken something or messed up something, and then later on I would have worked that and I would have had to redo all of this again. And sometimes it's multiple things. So you fix one thing and it's actually something being fixed. You fix it and you fixed it, but it doesn't work. But there's more than one thing wrong. Drive me bananas. The one thing I haven't tried is test the wave.
So I'm busy recording now, and this will hopefully be used to play back.
Oh no. Okay, well that worked. So now I just want to start cleaning everything up after testing it and fixing all the problems. So I want to now get these speakers to stay in one spot. Okay, I don't think I even need to screw it in. I mean, it's going to have the plank on the top here, but this is, yeah, so that's perfect. Okay, fine. Nice and easy. Then I want a surface over here that I can put stuff on. Now, if you remember this was my original thing that I made, which obviously I'm not using anymore. So I'm redoing the LED controller. It'll just be a little board in here. It'll just be one of these over there. The power controller doesn't fit in there, so I'm going to put it something like that. I need the ESP32 here. That doesn't need a big board. Let's go see how big that needs to be. So the LED is one of these, the ESP32 is another one of these. That I would like to be close to the eyes. Yeah, so I probably need two here. Found this aluminium offcut. I just grinded down the bad edges. So the idea there is this seems to stick nicely on the top. So I cut a piece off. I think it's 12 sections. I soldered that on, and then I put some shrink wrap on, and then I made my own connection over there. That thing decides to go flat. My own connection there. Then that in theory should just plug into the breadboard. I just made a basic board. Those are the transistors. The signal comes from the front. I haven't put the signal in, but that's just the power. The plan now, I'm going to put a sheet of plastic and I'm going to cut the pumpkin. I made a bit of a mistake. I chopped through the head at the top slightly, as you can see over there. So right now I'm trying to fit this in over here. I've got it probably deep enough, but now what I need to know is after this piece, how much must I cut off? Okay, so I wasn't recording there again. So what did I say? I've just cleaned up quite a bit. There's no more pumpkin all over the place. And then I started measuring this. And then I realized I need to put the right side around. I need to cut a section because this needs to open like that. So it needs to come out here. So I drew this line around. And I'm about to cut. So this is one of the screens. So I think that's right way around, and that is upside down. So one's fine there. The screens aren't going to show 100%. They will be the right size, but obviously there's quite a deep hole in there, and they don't line up exactly. So it won't be perfect, but hopefully good enough. So now I need to build. So the plan is I'm going to put see-through like Glad wrap in front of these so they don't get full of pumpkin when I finally do it. But for now, I need a. Well, this is going to be hard to make. I need a way of putting the screen on there. If I use little nails. Okay, so there's a few ways of doing this. The way I originally thought of doing it is having like a holder which attaches to here and the screens get pushed into there. But I just think that's going to be crazy difficult to fit it into the pumpkin perfectly. So what I'm thinking now is the screen has got 4 holes. And I use nails and I just nail it in there. Again, I'm going to be using Glad wrap. I will have to nail it in slightly different directions, and they'll have to be teeny weeny nails, so not too like little tacks or something, or screws or wood, or I don't know, but it needs to have a little end bit so it holds it in. What I'm going to do now is just attach this to the rest of the setup, and make sure this still works. So how do you go make longer cables? Took me a while. This is for the STM32, the screen to talk to the Orange Pro, basically. So I added the STM32 and I found I had quite a few bugs. It took me a while to fix it, but I got it working. That's just displaying the top of the screen, and same with this one. I've tested everything. The only thing that's not working is the blue LED, but I just think it's a loose pin, so I'm not going to worry about that now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build it up completely, how it's supposed to be, except without the pumpkin. And I'm also going to sand this a little bit further down, these two sections here, just so it can move a bit further down. I'm not too happy with the angle there. Okay, that is definitely higher up. That over there is very close. Is that a problem? I would say no. And the screen's up here. So the mouth is up here. So the screens are over there. So the screen needs to go in like that. So there's more than enough space here. So that's good. I don't have wire length issues. It's LED. So the LED wasn't working, the blue wasn't working. Everything else was working. Is that everything together except the pumpkin? Okay, let's switch it on, see what happens. Okay, the screen's not coming on. Okay, I was having this problem. Yes, there's a wire issue here. Look. Okay, what I want to do is I want to unpower this and replace these wires with another wire. I don't know if it's well, it can't be the pins. Yeah, but I was having problems when I was programming it too, which is odd because those are different wires. Okay, so that is red. That is black. Okay, so this is new cables. Something else is wrong here. Okay, I want to unplug this so I can experiment with it. That's why I unplugged it in the first place. Then everything just started working. I unplugged that and then it just all worked. seems to be a good connection here. We might actually have a, wait. This, there we go, there's the problem. This pin, the programming, that's why I couldn't program it. This pin has come slightly loose. I need to take that entire thing out and resolder it. So the ground one, this one connection on the back was looking a bit iffy, so I reflowed. I'm just got it separate. All I'm checking here is the switch on. The switch off. Okay, so that looks good. So then what I'll do is I'll put this in here. Okay, back to full test. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is test blue. Is blue working? Blue's still not working. Okay, is the other color working? Yes. Why is blue not working? The blue wire comes in from the LED strip and then goes, there's that small blue wire, goes into the transistor, there's a signal cable that comes in, and then it goes, there's another grey cable that goes back to ground plane. That area, that something's wrong with it. And the reason why I say that is the other two colors are working. So I'm going to take a quick look. So you've got a blue wire going into the transistor, then you've got a grey cable coming from the Arduino, and then another grey cable going back to ground. Now that grey cable is on the same wire, same section as the grey cable coming in. So I don't know how this ever worked. Blue should have never worked. So I will attempt to fix it and see if that's the problem. I have moved the cable. I will now see if it works. Okay. So I don't know how I didn't see that problem ages ago. This I should have, when I initially was testing the board, I should have found this problem. So I don't know. But that works. Okay, let's go over everything. So blue works, of course. Green works, of course. Red works. And wait, sensor angle, it is 97. Okay, 97 shouldn't do anything. 69 to open it. 69. And I'll just leave it there. So that's working. Measure distance, that says it's 20. And then play.
So I'm busy recording now, and this will hopefully be used to play back.
Update client, update client. Okay. Everything's working. It's all frozen now. Oh yeah, I guess this fridge is colder than I thought it would be. What the plan is now is I'm going to use that and cover the insides. So then I don't get pumpkin all over my electronics. Need to see what's going on. So I need that to stay there. So what I can do is put a little hook in here or something like that. But so far that's not too bad. How do I put the mouth on? I've got one of the screens and it's running. So that's roughly straight on. What I'll do is I'll cut out, so this, just an angle here and an angle here. So you can see, so from head on you can see the screen. Okay, I think that's improved it. So then if I put this directly in front, I think it's directly in front, and then I put the screen there. Okay, that's good. Yes, now I just need to connect the screen in there. So I need a wire. So if I go completely through the skin and then back in another hole, so that means I'll have a little line over here and a little line down here, or well, probably there and there. That's probably a weaker point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move the servo up and down. It should be good enough.
Did I scare you? Silly human.